It is SME SOS, the life raft for you small businesses when things are tough. And today, I haven't cut my hair. I'm just getting ready for a photo shoot, and I was in the middle of preparing my lettuces, literally. You'll see more about this later. And I realized I hadn't taken any of my clips out of my hair, and it was 3 minutes to 10. So unfortunately, you have me like this. But today we're going to be dealing with a big kahuna of a subject. We're going to be talking over the next hour. We're going to be reminding ourselves that social media and what it is as a tool for our business, and that it is not our whole business, right? This has done a bit of soul searching this weekend. Do remember, this is going to be a live that I think so many small businesses would benefit from. So if I could ask you one thing, anyone who's joining, can I see all of you tagging in one other person that you think might enjoy this session? Because we're talking about social media. We've got experts coming on, really understanding how social media is not our business. It is a tool for our businesses. We're going to be discussing what it would take to take our businesses off social media and debating if this is the right thing for us or not. So we've got some, as I said, some experts in Pip, founder of Social Pip, a social media agency for small businesses. And she's going to be discussing how we can make Instagram and other social media platforms work for us and around us, right? That's what we need to do. Thank you, everyone. You're all tagging in. Let's all tag in other people that we think that we know, small businesses that would benefit from talking about social media and what's going on with it at the moment. We're hopefully, fingers crossed, going to be speaking to Mark Constantine, founder of LUSH, but about how they made the decision to pull LUSH off social media completely. But he is a pretty busy man with nearly 1,000 stores, everything that they're having to deal with in Russia and Ukraine. You can only imagine, and it's a really, really difficult period when you're a business leader dealing with those sorts of things. So I'm going to hope he's going to join us, but he might not be. If not, we've got some people coming on to share what they're doing in their small businesses. So we're getting ready for our Easter and spring shoot downstairs. That's what we're doing, bringing to life small businesses. It's one of my most glorious moments where not only can I help small businesses, but I actually think we love our consumers to see how maybe we could use our small businesses in these seasons and these occasions. So we're having a lot of fun. And as ever, by the way, it's outstanding. It is just outstanding. Small businesses are literally the pioneers in everything, and every trend, everything. Every big business must watch small businesses. You have to know this. Right, so today we are talking about social media. So where I'm at, and I'd love to see where you're at. I'm going to read out some comments now. Lots of good mornings and tagging people in. Flower Child Heirloom. Can't wait to find out what a non-brick and mortar you can learn from Lush's social media blackout. Yes. Slugs and Snails looking beautiful this morning, Holly. Oh, you're very kind. I mean, I'm just trying to make sure that all the clips in my hair aren't showing. I am Rachel Shop. I love social media, but hate the posts. I think they are best seen to flop. Hang on, I love social media, but hate the posts, I think, are the best. And then they seem to flop. Okay, I understand that. Absolutely. You think this is going to be a corker, and then it's tumbleweed, right? It's a bit of a gutting moment, isn't it, for everybody? I've got a comment here. Popsy Clunk. Hi, Holly. I struggle to know if my Insta posts are working or leading to anything. Well, we're actually now going to talk to an expert, and that is such a good point. Let's just put it out there where I stand. I think that social media does have a place to play in all of our businesses, but I believe, and I'm faulty of this as well, and that's why I'm taking you on the journey as well, that we're putting our eggs in sorry for the pun on Easter shoot day, we're putting our eggs in one basket, and we're not working the muscle with everything else. And I'm really, really intrigued to start working that muscle. And some of the things I'm thinking really feel anti-tech, the place that we are in today, but it feels very human. I'm talking about catalogs. I'm talking about magazines. I'm talking about events. I'm talking about emails. great websites, brilliant SEO, great PR, all these sorts of things, long form video, put long form video out there. 90%, if you look at the Instagram, the statistics, 90% of people don't watch it. 10% do. Is that 10% enough? How much effort do you go into long form video? Isn't long form video better than that for a minute? I think it is. Are we behaving in a way that we want to consume? I don't think we are. I think we're behaving in a way that you just make things faster. 5 tips. Now, give it to me in a minute. I don't want to hear anything else. Just give me 5 tips. But there's no enjoyment. There's no juice. There's no talent. There is no magic. There's no wisdom in all of these things. And are we providing content that just makes us faster and faster and faster and faster? Till what? Till what? One tip? One tip, speak for 1 second. Actually, I don't want to even see you. I just want to hear your voice. I don't know what it's going to be. And do I, as a business leader and owner, want to partake in this world? So I do think, because I think, how could I see all of you beautiful people here today if I wasn't doing this, right? So there is absolutely necessity for social media, but it needs to not be everything. Right, we're heading over to Social Pip, who is going to absolutely tell us much more about this subject, but also in a way, because this is actually her job, know so much more about it than I do. So Social Pip is joining us. I'm just going to ask her again. Hang on 1 second. Here we are. I might and might not have eaten half of the mini eggs that were for the shoot. Holz doesn't know that. She hasn't seen it yet. Hello.
Hello. How are
you?
I'm good. You?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for asking me.
I wanted to, can I kick off by asking you to tell us about your business before we get stuck in?
Sure. So my business is Social Pip is the name. It's been going for just over 10 years. I work with small businesses, like really, freelancers, one man, I don't like the word one man bands, but you know what I mean, really tiny businesses. I think the largest business I've ever worked with probably had in the marketing team, a team of 4. So, I love people who do what I do, people who are just them on their own, trying to juggle a million things and probably family and, all the kind of normal day-to-day stuff. I am very much about trying to make social simple, common sense, practical, and as effective as it can be. And just give you the advice, not always that you want to hear, but the advice that will hopefully work for you and just make things feel less overwhelming, because it is overwhelming.
Yeah, I think that's, this is a great place to start, because I would love, by the end of this session, even though we're going to speed date today, for people to leave with maybe an idea that social media doesn't have to consume our lives, that we can use it and get as much out of it if we use it smartly, and that actually it doesn't have to be everything. And, today, I come out of a weekend where I've worked quite a bit. Now, would I say it's working? Well, I shared a lot of the stuff I was prepping for this Monday. I was sharing my life. I celebrate small businesses. It's what I do. My business is me. But then sometimes what can happen is I was saying to my niece who wanted to talk to me about something, asking her to wait. I continuously asked her to wait while I was bloody posting, and it pissed me off now on reflection. Let's start by recognizing we're all feeling it at the moment, aren't we? What are you seeing with clients? Do you think other people feel this way?
Absolutely. If it's any consolation, I feel it too. Any expert who says, oh, it's all hunky-dory at the moment, is lying. Instagram's changed. It's not the easy platform it once was. Even pre-pandemic, you could post something and there'd be the flurry of likes and the flurry of comments, and that has changed, and it feels a much tougher space right now. And posts flop. My posts sometimes flop. I noticed somebody say, I put my best post out and it's really demoralizing when it doesn't do well. but and you know, and I get that too. And for me, I sort of try and say to my clients who feel like this that, you know, Instagram has matured as a platform, whether we like it or not, and our approach to our expectations and what we can understand is happening behind the scenes that they don't tell us about, that can help our mindsets feel more positive about what we're doing, has to change with that too. But yeah, absolutely, my clients and myself, there is less reach, there is less engagement. Sometimes it feels like tumbleweed. A lot of clients are feeling like, you know, they have to do reels, and you don't have to do reels. You know, yes, it helps because Instagram are favoring them, because although they're coming up for 2 years old in August, you know, they're still Instagram's favorite toy, if you like. You know, their flavor of the moment. They want them to do well, so they're going to make it feel like they do well. But you can absolutely do reels your way. You can do social media your way. And I think what we need to start doing, as well as having what I call a positive Instagram mindset, is also understanding what's in our control on Instagram, because it is really easy to feel like Instagram is taking control of us and making us do things and run with things that we don't necessarily want to do, or that, you know, we put our post out and it's up to Instagram as to what happens with it. But there are a whole heap of things that we as small business owners can take back in terms of control and can make us feel more positive about being in this space. But when you're a small business owner and not an Instagram expert or a social media expert, you don't know about those. So
no,
that's what we need to do.
That's the whole point, isn't it? We need to do this, and that's a great. I really appreciate what you're saying there. It's something where, in a way, you know, we're I think what's healthy as well is that we're even having this session. You know, 1 year ago, no way would we be having this session talking about Instagram in a way where you could exist without it, and I think it would be very difficult to exist without it. Hand on heart, do you think that we need to almost, as you said, I liked what you said, Instagram is maturing. Do you think we need to start maturing with our relationships with social media? Because it is actually, I'm presuming there's going to be a statistic or something that if someone said 80% of my work, let's say on social media, actually is not seen, only 20% is. Now I'm making that up, but if everything in life is 80-20 or 80, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, how do you get to the bits that are working? And is that because we're just farming out content and we're not taking a second to actually look at the results?
I think possibly yes, because when I work with a lot of clients, they don't even know that their Instagram insights, which can help them understand what gives them reach, what content that they've posted onto the grid does what, you know, because if I look at some of my posts, some of the ones with less likes still drive what I want them to do, which might be clicking onto the website to go to the link that I'm talking about. But if, you know, a lot of small businesses don't know that those insights are there or how to access them. And so they can't tell what's working, really. So, yeah, and I've completely lost my train of thought as to what your original question was.
No, it was more like just saying that, you know, are we producing a lot of content and then not actually taking the time to work out what that content drives, and then the next day we're producing more, and so we're in this constant, you know, the hamster wheel, and that is basically what's been fueling the feeling of overwhelm, I'm assuming.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it probably stems from as I said, you know, not understanding where we can access information that helps us, but also the Instagram of old, the Instagram of, say, 2019, it was really easy to put a post out every day and feel like we would be getting something back. Whereas now, it's not like that at all. And actually, what can help you as a small business is to step back from the content churn, because that's ultimately what it is. And the more you churn out the content that doesn't really do anything, the harder it feels for you. And actually, the less the algorithm has in terms of signals to necessarily go on as well. And replace that content churn with being proactive in terms of, you know, working smartly with some of the engagement things you can do, with some of the searching that you can do on Instagram, with some of the planning that you can do to go, you know, to go out and actually find more of the ideal followers you want, or to work out what to do with your current following if you don't feel like you've got, you know, that engagement and that community happening now as well.
I've got some questions. Just a very short answer. Can you give me the answer to, but if I don't post every day, Instagram are going to forget I'm here. And actually, they like the fact that I post every day, so they prefer me.
I disagree with that, if I'm honest. It doesn't really matter whether you post every day or not, in terms of whether the algorithm sees those sort of signals. Because, I mean, I've always only ever posted on my grid once a week, and I don't think it's ever done me any harm, if that makes sense. But what I do in terms of daily activity, and I'm not saying you have to do this at all, is to turn up on stories, because wherever you are on Instagram, the algorithm, if you like, can pick up on the signals that people are feeding it according to your content. So if that comes from stories and using the engagement stickers that, you know, are native to stories, that are part of the, you know, an easy way to drive engagement. And also, if you're super smart, you can use those story stickers to drive leads and, you know, and get really understand who your audience are and what they want from you. That all feeds into the sort of signals. And the other thing that, in terms of what I talk about now with my clients in maturing our outlook on Instagram, is to stop obsessing over Instagram's numbers that they feed us, especially all those, you know, likes, you know, that dopamine effect, because there is a lot of hidden signals that Instagram don't tell us about that happen all the time. So by that, I mean, if somebody searches your profile, you're not privy to that, but Instagram knows, and that signal counts. If somebody looks at your post and is scrolling through and scrolls back because they will suddenly go like, oh, actually, what was that image? And then clicks more on the caption and reads your whole caption, but does nothing else with it, you don't have that signal sent to you by Instagram, but Instagram knows about it. And that signal between that your account and that other person still counts, if you like. It's just that because we've been trained by Instagram.
We've been trained. Let me read out some comments and questions. We've got 10 minutes left. Sparkles Eco Shop, high five to fellow one woman business owners. High five to you too. My Business Revolution, you are absolutely fabulous. Thank you for your beautiful energy and all that you do for us. Fenton Yard Flowers, wonderful topic and very helpful. Thank you. I am Rachel Shop. You have to stay true to yourself and do what you love. Love what you do. That's a nice title for a book. Even if it doesn't get the results you want. Don't just post things you think you have to. Flingo and Swallow, I would love to see a discussion about good old-fashioned press, getting into magazines or online magazines. Flingo and Swallow, I think we're going to do one. So HQ team, let's note that. Messy Me Box, I personally love reels. As a new business, it's actually helped me become my brand. 3 questions coming up. Maybe just keep the answers to a minute so we can get through more, because by the way, it's a load are coming through.
Yes, there is.
Hearts and Stars by Marty Claire. Is it worth paying to advertise on Facebook or Instagram?
Okay, now I'm not an advertising expert. I've always done just organic social media. The one thing I can say is that yes, it probably is, but only if your current organic engagement is good. Otherwise, you're paying to try and be seen before you've been seen.
Yeah, so you're not, so it's a little bit like having gym membership and not going.
Yes.
A little bit like that. We all like that. Oh, don't worry about doing the hard stuff. We'll just get gym membership and they'll do it all for me.
Yeah, I'll tick the box and feel good.
Yes. Wordsworth Soap. I don't have a shop. How would you recommend reaching customers if you were to depend on social media less to increase customer base and sales?
Okay, stories, stickers, email marketing, I would say, and driving them to the website, if that's where they can predominantly buy from, would be my top of the line kind of advice.
My big thing is, you know, I think back to my days at Nottingham High Street, and we had SEO specialists, we had pay-per-click specialists, we had department full of these people. The reason being is because Google out there, hello, Google, is a pretty large search engine. So when we're concentrating on like the enormity of social media, there is Google. Your website needs to be searched. If I want to go and find something, potentially I am going to Google, is your SEO match fit? And we're going to do a session on that, everybody. Suze Lake Designs, what can we do about the new favorite and follow thing on Instagram? I feel my followers won't add me and I'll get lost in the feed.
See, I've actually got a live coming on Wednesday with a colleague called Suze about this, because I actually don't think you will get lost. And I also don't think that we should be pushing people to favourite us, because first of all, you can only favourite up to 50 accounts. So the chances as a business of you being favorited by a user, just a normal user, not somebody like ourselves, is probably quite slim. And if you are going to end up on the favourite list, you really need to sort of earn it. If they're going to search chronologically and you're posting at the best time, you will still show. If they're going to use the default feed, which is still the algorithm, and your content resonates with them, you'll still show. If you're turning up on stories and they like your stories, they'll still find you. So I honestly don't think we should panic as much. I mean, it might turn out to be different, but currently my point of view is we shouldn't panic too much about this new 3-feed thing at all.
It's another thing, isn't it, that we get into. It's like another person at the playground creating another rule that we all have to adhere to. And I think it's not a rule. I understand why they're doing it and it's trying to help, but it's another thing that we're anxious about. They're not going to follow me. They're not going to favorite me. I'm not on their list. Oh no, my business is going to go down. Also, tell us about the obsession with Instagram versus other social media platforms. Now, don't get me wrong, I know we have an amazing Facebook community. I don't do Twitter. Pinterest, everyone should go and look at our Pinterest board. We have worked frigging hard lately and it's looking awesome. So Pinterest, I know, is coming up and we're about to do a session this week on it. What would you say about Twitter? I know you made a comment the other day about this, and other social media platforms.
I mean, to be honest, they've all got a different place, but it's in terms of what they can bring you and how you use them. Because I think the danger we fall into with Instagram and Facebook is thinking that, especially now that Facebook owns Instagram, is that they work the same way, and they absolutely don't. And my biggest piece of advice to any small business sometimes is actually, rather than trying to be everywhere, is you need to scale back and you need to be bloody brilliant on one platform, maybe two, before you go and try and do anything else, because we just can't. And if we're mediocre on many, we're never going to be brilliant anywhere. So you don't feel like you need to be everywhere. And if you do want to try a new one, is your audience there? Do you love it? Because if you don't love it, you're not going to be able to make it work for you, no matter how hard you try, because the passion just isn't going to really be there at all. And it's understanding the different ways that they work and what they can actually do for you, and then working out whether that will actually help you longer term too.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. Fenton Yard Flowers. I have got into a lovely routine of posting on a Thursday, Friday and Saturday. This stops me spending too much time on social and gives me a better work-life balance. Lillian May Studio, good morning, Will. Thank you so much for tackling this really neat, really real and difficult issue. Love this. I think it is. And I mean, would you say for Fenton Yard Flowers, she posts 3 times a week versus some of us who post, 14 times a week? There's going to be a difference, no? There's going to be a difference between how many followers we're receiving, would you say, or not?
I would say not necessarily, because it's very much dependent on the quality of what you're putting out there. So if you post 3 times a week and your content, is loved by those that see it, and is shared, and your community almost waits for it, that can be so much more powerful than, say, posting 14 times but not necessarily a lot happening. Just because you post a quantity doesn't mean you're going to get a quantity of followers. And even if you do, I mean, I'm always saying to people, a huge number of followers means not very much if they're not doing anything with your content. Whereas if you've got a really small following who love it and are talking about you on and offline, that's far more powerful and what you absolutely need as a small business on Instagram. So I wouldn't say quality ever equates to results in any other way.
Well, that's really interesting. My God, for everyone who's posting 14 times a week, this might be good news coming your way. Just a few more comments. Katie, let's do, we've got 2 minutes. Can we give this a minute each? Katie Bell Jewelry, what would your top tips be for engaging existing followers, Social Pip?
Mine would be, so if they're existing followers, is to talk, get onto stories, and if they're not already over on your stories, try and encourage them over onto your stories, because that's where you can have the most meaningful relationships and most meaningful conversations and engagement with them. So get them over onto your stories, start utilizing stickers, and start utilizing that DM space, because that DM space is a private one-on-one. So people are far more inclined to reach out to you, to have conversations with you if you reach out to them as well, than they are to comment publicly on things like your grid
Right.
posts.
And the other comment here, how can I start the whole email thing? Actually, don't worry, that's a bit of a topic. We're going to be covering that. Serendipity, Sea Crafts. We are going to have a look at yesterday's post. I've got a menu of some of the things that we're going to go through. And if it's not on that, because I can't quite remember, we'll be tackling it next week. Popsy Clunk, how do you use story stickers?
Okay, so you can use them absolutely for fun. People love to have, fun with them. There's a quiz sticker, there's a poll sticker, there's an emoji slider, there's the question sticker. And if you want to use it kind of more to sort of drive business, is to get people to give you their opinions about perhaps 2 things you sell or an idea that you've got coming up. And what you can do is you can see everybody who's voted for one thing or another on the story sticker. So if, for example, you're like, should I do this on my website? Everybody who says, yes, you should, there you've got a list of people who are interested if you put that item for sale on your website. So then you can message them off the back of that, and you could offer them a discount code for getting involved, or just let them know that product is now available to buy on your website.
Brilliant.
There's so many great ways.
Fantastic. Look at that. We sped date and we covered so many things. I'm actually now going to go, hopefully Mark is confirmed. We're going to head over to Mark, who's got another sort of thought on social media, and I'm so interested to get into such a big brand and what they're thinking about. But thank you for this.
Thank you.
Helpful, and take care and have a great day.
And you, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care, bye.
Bye.
Hello.
It's surprising how quick, once you've come off Instagram, you've lost all power of doing anything at all.
I love it. I love it. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's a pleasure. I'm sorry it was a bit fumbled.
Today we're talking, you've inspired this SME SOS because of what LUSH has done coming off social media. And the small business community are asking tons of questions to me about, is this something that they could do, should do? What was and asking questions such as, is it all social media, or was it against the whistleblowers, understanding Facebook and Instagram specifically?
Yeah, it was, I think really it was the algorithms that were taken from all of the betting sites, the gambling sites, that were creating such addiction. And what we all worked out, because, we tried to come off.
In 2019.
And then we couldn't. And then we had all sorts of arguments internally. And I realized that I was addicted. The people I was arguing with were addicted. None of us were ever going to make the decision to come off because we were deeply in. We couldn't. Yeah. It was like trying to get a tick out. It wasn't as straightforward as you thought it was going to be. And so that was a huge challenge. And of course, because everyone else involved in the organization is also addicted, you can't have a sensible conversation. So in the end, there were about 3 of us that made the decision we would do it. And I think, it was a huge fuss. I mean, it was quite intriguing at the time because we offered the story that we were coming off to the Sunday Times, and they turned it down because they thought it was a bit boring. And then, of course, everyone in the world took the story up. And then the next week, the Sunday Times came back and said, well, we think we might have made a mistake there. Should you have anything else in the future, let us know. We were surprised how big an impact coming off had. And of course, the truth was that impact of coming off was something of an advert for us. So in actual fact, our sales increased, they didn't decrease. Now that's fine if you can talk to the Sunday Times, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But
it's another thing altogether if you've got a small business. But it's the same issue. I'm going to use an analogy with my local sandwich shop lady, because she's really wonderful. Throughout the whole of lockdown, she was there making sandwiches no matter what. I mean, and COVID came and went several times, and she was still there doing it. And her landlord, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, is not very kind. And she was struggling with all sorts of issues with her landlord. And Facebook or Instagram are a landlord. They're a landlord, and they're landlords that have, you see, the thing is, when you've got a high street shop, or in the sandwich lady's case, the small, she's just got a tiny little place, you know, where the landlord's insisting that she is responsible for the window in front of her. She's only got this one window. I mean, you can imagine it's a small sandwich shop. And the landlord's saying this, the landlord's saying that. Now, the thing is, with the landlord, at least you have a legal agreement with them. You know where you are.
Yes.
You know their rent is opaque, if not clearly visible. You know what your rates are. You know where you are. And you know if it's going to increase, when it's going to increase, or how it's going to increase. And the problem with business on Instagram or Facebook, maybe some of you that are listening do know what's going on, but we certainly didn't. We couldn't work out where we were. We couldn't work out what was going to happen. And obviously having a platform where you're not in charge of your costs is a bit tricky. Yeah?
Yeah.
And on top of that, you've got the situation.
Mark, can I ask, when you say costs, were you paying for advertising?
No, we weren't paying for advertising.
So when you say costs,
are
you
you
manpower,
are you
women
paying
power?
for advertising?
Pardon?
Are you paying for advertising? No,
never
but
have.
some of these people listening to us are, aren't they?
Yes.
And if you try to get away with what you're trying to get away with, Holly, you are you're their target.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't want people on their site that aren't paying
for advertising.
Yeah.
And when you say costs, Mark, did you mean like people running social media, the sort of distraction in your company? Because you have 5,000 members of staff, right?
Well, so you make an assessment, don't you? You make an assessment. So you yourself have got staff.
Yeah.
And your main platform is Instagram.
Yeah.
So you have a commitment to Instagram that's beyond beyond the norm, and you spend a huge amount of your time, which I know is very expensive. Your time, isn't it?
Yeah.
If I wanted to hire you, you'd be quite a lot of money, wouldn't you? So
I would.
I think correctly, right? So right. the point I'm making there is that, yes, there is a cost, but it's not just the cost; it's the addiction, isn't it? You've got there's a cost in that if you come up, so they're basically reducing your exposure every however long. I mean, we can't even discuss how they're reducing your exposure. I don't.
Because we don't know.
Because we don't know, right? If we're with the bank and they turn into, excuse my French, shits, which is quite common. At least we've got some idea of what we agreed, even if they then try and sneak out the back door afterwards.
Yeah.
You know where you are and you know what you're doing. The tax man, similarly, I mean, I have had several arguments with the tax man where he decides that, irrespective of what it says quite clearly in his book, that I can, for example, claim expenses as an author, he doesn't want me to claim my expenses as an author. So I argue black's white until I can claim my expenses as an author, right?
Yeah.
So, but in this instance, it's not clear. We don't know what's going on, except that you know that you're reaching less and less people. You know someone's doing it to you. Yeah. So you don't know how they're doing it to you, and you don't know when they're going to stop. And you can't make a calculation that you think, well, this is all right. In addition, for us, we were attracting a lot of young women to these platforms. We were providing the entertainment, if you like, and the content, and people were looking at what we were doing on these platforms, and according to Facebook's data, and there were a fair percentage, over 10% of women were considering suicide as a result. Now, we would not do that in any circumstances. We're about candlelit baths.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and not ones that you take at the end of your life, if you know what I mean. So that's what we're about. And we're not about spending longer and longer and longer on your phone. We're about having a bit of having a lovely life, really, or as lovely as we can make it.
And Mark, can I ask you a question then? So, for instance, there is differences, isn't there, as well? Because I think a lot of small businesses that we're talking to here do not have physical shops. They don't have, they're okay, so they're now in Instagram. For them to come off Instagram cold turkey, for them, it's not an option. I'm looking at all the comments. They're basically saying, I can't, but I want to have a healthier relationship with it. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing is, for me, right now, speaking to everybody, I use social media to pave the way to bring a community together, because I couldn't do physical events. I couldn't do this event in 24 hours to help this many people. So I use social media, as people are saying, thank God you're on, Holly. We feel like...
But Holly, what we're actually using is the internet.
Right. Okay. Yes, we're using the internet.
Use the internet in 101 cleverer ways, couldn't we? You know,
yes.
you and I could be on your app. I could be happily all snuggled up in your nice, cozy place. Do you sort of mean? Not here on Instagram. I could be 101 different places that are not where I am.
I don't know. I don't know if it would have the same thing, as in people would just see it and be able to join
Holly,
it.
you would make a lovely site for me to go on. I know you would.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I got my education of the internet by having a forum. I don't know if you've ever had a forum. My fans were quite outspoken, and it all got very out of hand. But I did get one hell of an education. You know, I was taught what you can and cannot say. You know, you're not to give other people's addresses away. You're not to do all things I did on this forum that were very, very quickly sorted out. And I decorated the forum in a style of the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which I really liked as a film. So I had all the backgrounds were like that. And we always pretended that it was upstairs above a cafe in Amsterdam, looking out over the canals, and a flower shop. And it was sort of bedecked in towels and steaming baths, and people were recovering from the night before. That's my romantic image of it. Of course, the truth was that it was quite a lot of bullying, especially of me. But I used to spend whole weekends on it. I'm very nerdy anyway, so I used to really enjoy myself, and I learnt a lot about that kind of thing. So you can have a community anywhere. You don't have to have a community on a site that is using techniques that you're not in control of, and where you can't even control your own behavior.
I'm going to ask you a question. Let me read out some comments, and then I'm going to ask you a big burning question that everyone has. I'm sure you'll know what it is. Samphire Glass, this is so interesting, fascinating subject. Anyone can travel. Slugs and Snails, this is a dream team of business leaders. Mark, you and me, huh? Shimmy Shimmy Yay, I've loved Lush since the Cosmetics to Go catalogues back in the 80s. Wildflowers Illustrations Co. I think this is such an important point. We're all addicted, so it's really hard to be objective. Willow Tree Yarnery, I'd forgotten about stories, which all the focus on reels. So thank you for the reminder. Lilia May Studio, God, this is brilliant. So much to think about here. Thank you both so much. Wanted to ask, what are you then doing as a business? So let's bear in mind who we're speaking to.
Yes, yeah.
They might not have shops. They might not have big advertising budgets. I done some research, and I read out a list of some of the other things that you were doing. So you are, for instance, on Twitter. You are using Pinterest.
Yeah, we're on Twitter. I mean, now Twitter is the ultimate troll heaven, isn't it, really? But we're not really talking about trolls here. We're talking, so being available for comment one way or another is important, obviously. And there's no better way than getting comment than being on Twitter. Now, my personal thing, if everyone comes on my Twitter, they're going to find a whole load of birdsong. So what happened at the beginning of the lockdown was I just wanted to cheer people up a bit. And I've got this huge collection of bird sounds that myself and some others have recorded over the years. So every day we put a bird sound that we recorded on that day on my Twitter. So it's not exactly a normal Twitter in that sense, but it was just a kindness. So a lot of people have enjoyed it, and then we asked at the beginning of this year, do you want us to carry on for another year? To be honest, most of the stuff I put on my Twitter was sort of fairly boring business quotes or bits and bobs that I thought were interesting, and people didn't find them anywhere near as interesting as they do a lovely golden oriole or a dunnock singing or something like that. So that's what's
your bird song on Twitter. What other things are Lush doing?
Well, Lush, I mean, but a lot of those things are geared up towards the shops. So making sure people know where the shops are and everything else. But then also what we did was, for us, people use our name. So people will use LUSH, which is illegal because we own the trademark and we've built that trademark, and they'll get people to their site. Amazon, for example.
Right.
In the case of Amazon, we sued them and we fought them for years until we eventually got them to behave themselves. That's not available to everyone without a large pocket. But we also are maximizing, you know, wherever we can, those terms on Google, you know, searches and other searches that relate to our inventions and our products. So we're not purchasing someone else's trademark as an advert, but we are purchasing our own names as adverts.
So you're going deeper into your archives, you're sweating what you have already.
Exactly, that's exactly
correctly.
In every
and we
way
talked about the fact that, you know, people use Google. If I'm going to go and find your bath bomb, I'm not going to come onto Instagram necessarily. I'm going to come onto Google. Is our SEO right? I also read that you've got you're growing your YouTube presence.
Yes.
You're producing email newsletters for campaigns, in Pinterest for inspirational content, and offline, investing in more physical events, community activations, and maybe even the old-fashioned postal catalogue. Are you bringing it back?
Oh, well, yes, most definitely. I mean, that's the point. These are all skills that you sort of had before you got addicted, aren't they? I mean, it is so much like an addiction, because you're thinking to yourself, well, you know, I used to do this and I used to do that and I used to do the other, and you just stop because you think it's. I'll go into another weird story, right?
I love your stories.
I have a friend called Trevor. Now, I have to excuse me, but he's a planning officer and he is a little bit boring, and only when he's talking about planning. He's a bird watcher as well. He's not boring for me when he's talking about birds, but. Anyway, he sent me some help when he was not working for the local council. He sent me some help, quite long documents. And the lady that did my planning came along and said, I know you know these things because I've seen the letters that Trevor sent you. Working on the principle that I would have read the letters that Trevor sent me, which of course I haven't. As you know, I don't tend to read things that are very long or listen to things that are very long. Perhaps I have an issue, but basically, don't assume. You know, the thing we all assume with social media is we're communicating. We think we're reaching our customers, we're talking to our customers, and in some instances we are. But likes and this sort of thing really aren't the answer, are they? I mean, you can like me as much as you like, but I would be really grateful if you could just buy a bleeding bath bomb. And that, you know, in a way, that having to get back to your focus. And I would encourage people to think about a stall in the local market. You know, all of those more traditional things, which are such good fun and get you out and about and get you, you know, really talking to your customers. And then maybe graduating up. I always like those cities and towns that have a good market in the center of town where you can work your way up. You know, once you've I mean, I can remember the Body Shop being in Covent Garden Market for a long time before they had a shop, and doing extremely well from that market stall. So I'm not just saying, oh, get a market stall. But you do have to, you're right, you have to sweat everything you've got. You can't be blasé. But if you look at it,
consumed with one platform, consumed, you know, I'm doing a photo shoot for Easter, put all your eggs in one basket, which is potentially what a lot of businesses have, and ultimately don't necessarily feel, maybe, if I'm honest with you, Mark, inspired about the alternatives, because you know, because so many businesses haven't worked on any alternatives, there isn't actually great examples.
Well, there are a few on your site, actually.
Like, go on.
Listen to Daunt.
Yes, Daunt.
Look what he did. I mean, he took on, I mean, our lovely precious bookshops, which, all right, Waterstones are probably a bit responsible for the demise of the independent bookshop, but you know, but he took on they all looked as if they were going to kiss their ass goodbye, didn't they? I mean, it didn't look like we would have bookshops anymore.
Yeah.
Amazon was just going through, and he reminded us
Yeah.
how beautiful it is to be able to look in a bookshop or talk to the bookseller, or get a recommendation that isn't just, you read this, perhaps you'd like to read that, which we all like. I like that too, but it is sometimes nice to suddenly be surprised by something new. And he's built that up, and then of course he's gone in the States and done the same.
Yes, he has done an exactly the same.
I mean, obviously it has to be teams of people. It can't be an individual, but but he has done that. And then look at some of those that haven't bothered. Marks and Spencer's never bothered.
No.
Now look, I mean, I don't know what it's like in the towns of your
horrific.
And we've got no Marks and Spencers in the centre of Poole, no Marks and Spencers in the centre of Bournemouth. John Lewis going to start building flats in their shops. Oh, come on! You're supposed to be retailers, or or certainly merchants.
Yeah.
Let's get out there. Let's sell some product.
And do what you were set up to do. Can I ask you a couple of questions coming through? Wild Argyle, what percentage of growth came from Lush social media and digital? Like, was it an important channel? So when you guys went chop,
we don't know, do we? Because we were addicted. We thought, if you'd have asked us why we were addicted, we'd have said all of it. It just seemed like the most important thing in the world. We couldn't imagine, what it would be like, to the point that three of us had to make the decision. We're a very consensus-based organisation. I've just come off a meeting now with 40 people there while we were chatting about Russia and Ukraine and things like that. We don't tend to make decisions like this as individuals, but we had to because it was just like, well, we're never going to do it. And we, and now we seem to be prescient, don't we? I mean, now it's sort of like, oh, look at them. Didn't they do a good job? Well, didn't feel like that.
I can bloody imagine the backlash you had. Ratty Go Lightly, do you still create the Lush Times newspaper?
Yes, and that's what's going to come out. I mean, I've just put the prototype in the bin, not because it's wrong, but I could go and fish it out again. But I've just agreed, a new spring Lush Times, we do. But I mean, that again, I would just say, you don't have to have a glossy brochure, and you can just have a newspaper. Newspapers are not expensive to print, not expensive to do. Our first ones we used to do just off of the computer. And in actual fact, one of the lovely things about modern communication is that this style of communication that a corporation would never normally be allowed to do. I'd have to have a cameraman and this.
Oh yeah.
This is much more the norm and much more acceptable, which is great because it levels the playing field. It means that we can all hold our phone up and we can all have a chat. Yeah. I mean, the internet is fabulous. And I think that's what we need to remember. We need to remember what a bloody great thing it is. Look at this now. Look at all of us. We're able to talk. We're able to discuss these things, even if it is on Instagram. But we could equally do it on Zoom or in 101 other ways, on YouTube if we wanted to just broadcast or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are lots of opportunities and things we can create ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a much better way to long-term success. It's the same for us. We cannot be only with one landlord. They take advantage.
Yeah, I love the analogy of the landlord. My Paper Cut Forest, love listening to Mark's opinion about this. Rock's Works designs, physical spaces and talking to people are the best. I love the feedback. I get the genius customer ideas. Peg of me, I find that getting out and doing markets is much better for my mental health too.
Yes.
Good Twine, I've started attending my local market in order to meet my customers. Yeah. Slugs and Letters, we are doing a virtual market this morning, showcasing all of our types in one live feed, hoping to show more of what we do. And Sarah Hughes Home, I agree, James Daunt is a business inspiration. Mark, what would you say? Because I don't want to take too much of your time. You're dealing with things like Russia and Ukraine, and you've so kindly come onto this platform.
Oh, I'm delighted. I'm so delighted to be able
as
to
ever to help this small business community, and you are absolutely a godfather to this business and to us all. What would you say is a comment for someone who's thinking about it? They're not going to go cold turkey. What would you say?
No, you shouldn't go. You do as you see. You manage your transition to whatever you wish to transition to. You don't just go. You take it steady. I mean, I was surprised to find the last time I came on here, I invented a new Instagram account. I don't know if you remember.
I know, we remember, because we
and
couldn't
it was an
find you.
awful name. It was an awful name. And fortunately, I just found out I've still got my Instagram account. So although I don't go on it, it still exists, even though I couldn't remember the password, which is why I was so long-winded. And then I couldn't remember how to hold the bloody phone. But anyway, where was I going with that? What was the question?
You were
transition.
saying don't go
you transition. You take it
transition.
steady. You don't cut off anything. You, I mean, and even the tiniest business, being a bit nerdy, being a bit thorough in checking what you're doing, how you're doing it. That's the right way. You know, you're not doing it the wrong way when you're being thorough. Don't think you're not overthinking it. You're doing the right thing. You know, you've got to be steady. You know, the more information you have, the better. But don't get too caught up in the stats from one platform.
Yeah.
And remember, you are the entertainment. That's, you know, if let's say you suddenly decide I'm going to advertise on QVC, say, go on QVC.
Yeah.
Well, that's another way of reaching customers. Advertising on ITV. At least they're providing the content on ITV.
Yeah.
Not you.
Yeah.
I mean, as it is, you provide the entertainment and you're then being squeezed.
And then you're being squeezed. And I suppose the principle, of course, businesses don't have those budgets, but it's the principle that you're talking about, which is the shift.
Yes, I'm not suggesting you start. I don't have the budget for bloody advertising.
I was going to say.
I mean, nobody. But the point is, with all of these things too, is they're a lot less expensive than they were. So I mean, there are schemes now in various high streets where you can actually get rent-free shop. It would be good if the government were to limit rates, because they can be as, well, certainly say a half as much again. And they will have to deal with that. I mean, when you look at the high street, the local councils have got terrific benefit from that, from retailers. They've charged lots for you to park. They've taken rates from the people. The landlords have enjoyed it. All of that has now collapsed. All of that has gone. The rents have dropped 40, 50, 60% on where they were. And that, I mean, what do I foresee in the future? Well, fabulous stuff on the internet. And I'm using the word the internet rather than the platforms. Yeah. I see lots of really exciting opportunity there for all of us to get together. I'm loving, the fact you can have a Zoom conversation with someone in Pakistan and someone else, it's just bloody great. And then, so I don't see that as not being the future. I really do. Linked with whatever form of physical parties, organizing parties. Avon's still one of the largest companies in the world for cosmetic sales. Tupperware. I used to know.
I was just talking about my love of Avon yesterday.
Yeah.
I literally said Avon is, that idea of Avon needs to come back. Like there's, and I know it's not gone anywhere, but
yeah. And this is what I'm really on about. It's the dynamic, exciting, and vigorous thing. You may find parties are not for you; they're not what you want to do. Who knows? What you might like to do, but and maybe I mean, the thing is, for us nerds, the internet was great, wasn't it? I mean, I'm talking very freely here, but I'm not always. I sound like I'm always confident. I'm not. And I have lots of periods of time where I'd much rather, be all weekend in a forum. That suits me.
Yeah.
My favorite thing is Star Wars, you see. I have to admit. And I'm a Star Wars nerd. I watch on YouTube all the different opinion pieces every day. And
I didn't know that about you, Mark.
I know, it's not good to admit, is it? I mean, being a real nerd.
I'm a house full of them. I'm going to take a picture and share with you. I've got R2-D2 in my hallway.
Oh my God!
Yes, I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Listen,
Mark,
well.
let me ask you a couple more comments. Sparks Eco Shop. Thank you, Mark, for taking the time to speak to us. Acorn Glad York. Thank you both. It is so interesting. Nat Mass, you two are a dream team. I remember you at the awards. You guys should have a show. Little Fish Stationery. This is so encouraging to hear. Jasmine and Lily Floral Reese, you are a breath of fresh air, Mark. You have really made my Monday. Martha and Hepsy, talking to customers in person at markets is so lovely. And the last one, a life so simple. This has been amazing and just what I needed. I feel I give too much time to social media and I've lost the joy. This is a kick up the arse I needed to think outside the Insta box.
If you're going to start doing retail, do start by binge watching Black Books.
What's that?
Black Books. Have you never watched Black Books?
No.
Oh, he has a bookshop, but he hates the public.
Oh, really?
He gets a megaphone and shouts, "Come on, go out back on the streets, you time-wasting bastards." It's fabulous. If you're thinking of doing retail, you've got to watch Black Books.
Right, that's a recommendation. We're going to
Well, I know, but it will encourage you, but it will encourage you in the right way. Because you can,
I think this is it, Mark. Think outside the Insta box. This is what I'm parting with.
But accept that it is very, very seductive. I mean,
yeah.
What we're talking about here, we're talking to a friend about a bad relationship.
Yeah.
You know how much they love him. Do you know what I mean? And you're saying to them, it's no good. In fact, I once knew someone who went to their doctor and the doctor said, let's face it, you're never going to be well till you leave your husband. And this,
yes.
yeah. And this, I think you're going to have to think about that. With regard, you see, I think Instagram could change. I mean, so could Facebook. They could change. They could, not be so. And it's a form of greed, isn't it? It's not greedy necessarily for the money, although that's part of it. It's a sort of all-consuming thing, which is no good. It doesn't work. And especially the secrecy, because we don't know what's going on. If you knew what was going on, it might help. But how can you have something that's important to you where you haven't a bloody clue what they're doing to you?
Yeah, and I think it leads, it's running a business, as you know, Mark, but for small business, a one-woman, one-man band, this is the thing, we want to try and feel as in control as we can because we're trying to pay our rent, we're trying to pay our mortgages.
Well, and I think you're going to get Kate on to help, aren't you?
Yes.
And Kate explained to me, as human beings, we're hardwired for certainty in an uncertain world. And that's a very nice piece of wisdom. She is full of wisdom. I recommend anyone watching this to watch.
Oh, Mark, thank you. Well, Coach Kate is coming on Wednesday. She was on
How
last
lovely.
week.
I think you're all very fortunate. Coach Kate is definitely #1 in my books.
Oh, Mark, I'm going to let you go.
Thank you
and enjoy the rest of your day. And I will hopefully have a cup of tea with you later.
That'll be lovely. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.
See you later, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Right, I'm off now to be the Easter Bunny for small businesses. I'm not going to be doing any hopping on my reels, but hopefully soon you're going to be seeing me bring to life small businesses in all the magical ways that you guys are. All my love. I'll see you at 10 o'clock tomorrow.